Hello, Roman here with acsbyroman.com, your worldwide resource for all Mr. 12-volt Android Auto and CarPlay needs. Today we have this beautiful 2012 911 Carrera S, and we'll be doing a Mr. 12-volt installation into its PCM 3.1 along with hard drive cloning. Now, if this video is too complex for you to do as a DIY, you're welcome to come to one of our installation facilities and we can install for you. Or if you like, you can pull the PCM out and mail us the entire PCM and we can do the installation for you that way as well. Please do reach out to us via our website, email, or Facebook for details, and we'll happily get you rolling. First step to removing our PCM 3.1 will be our tools. We have a towel to make sure we don't scratch anything up. We have a light to give us a little bit more light in some spots, and we have a driver with a T25 Torx. Let's start taking off some panels. The first things to take off on this interior will be this left and right side trim. Most of them come off pretty easy. You can just grab them by hand, but sometimes you will need to get a little pry tool here. So for me, I'm just going to pull, starting from the bottom here. It comes off. When you come to this point where most of the clips are off, you need to bring it up and out. And a little bit of a wiggle, and it's free. Again, on the other side, same thing. And it's out. Next, we're going to need to take off the one T25 Torx that holds on the side trim here. This is the next panel that we're removing. We only need to take out one screw here. Okay. Now to remove this panel, we just slide it this way. I like to put my hand behind the panel and just wiggle it, and it just comes right off. Now we're going to be removing the PCM from the dash. To make this easier, we're going to put the shifter into the drive position. Before you do this, make sure your parking brake is on. Now that the parking brake is on, we're gonna go after these little clips. They get removed. They just slide right out. Don't forget to put these in before you put everything back together. And again, we're using the same T25 for this. Now, before I go and pull this actually out, I do want to put a towel down just in case. I don't want to scratch anything. Now, after this PCM comes out, we're going to have a bunch of plugs that are going to be challenging to remove. I like to start with the quad lock, because that's the big plug, because it takes up a lot of the space back there. And then I'm going to use this little flathead screwdriver to help depress the tabs on all the other plugs on the back of the PCM. Okay, we just want to make sure we have this here. So now we have the PCM out. Now that we have the PCM out of the dash, let's start disconnecting the various plugs that we have here. I like to go after the quad lock first. you just lift up on a tab and pull it back. So up and back, and then I get my fingers on it and it'll pull out. A little bit of a wiggle and it's out. Next we have these 3 plugs. Some cars will only have 2, depending on the options in your car. I just use a flathead to depress the tab and pull it back. And we flip the radio and do the other ones. These are a little bit more pain in the butt, but they will come out. Again, we need to depress this tab here. And then we depress this tab right there. That's it. The first thing that we're going to do when we have this PCM on our desk is we're going to do the hard drive cloning. We do the hard drive cloning because the PCM hard drives are older mechanical hard drives, the spinning style, and they are failing pretty epically on a lot of cars. So while your hard drive is still working, we will clone it onto a solid state drive, and that extends the lifespan of your PCM. When the hard drive has already started to fail, you'll start to notice the PCM will boot loop, it'll restart, sometimes once a day, sometimes it'll get as bad as once every 2 minutes or so. So again, to prevent all this, we do the hard drive cloning to mount the drive onto an SSD and prevent all that from happening in the longer term. Now, I do this at the beginning of the installation because we don't want to bump and jar this hard drive any more than it's already been bumped and jarred for the many years that it's been in the car. So to do this, we're going to take the drive out with a Torx 8 driver. And this is a PCM with an IDE drive. This vehicle is a 2012. Later cars that have jukebox as an option in their sources, where you see AM, FM, satellite, if you see jukebox, you need the cloning kit on our website that's labeled the SATA kit. This kit that we're doing here is for the IDE. Now, here's the plug. We just need to take off this board. Do not unplug this plug. You're just going to wiggle it off. There you go, it comes off. Here is our drive. You see the 40 pins. This is a IDE drive, so you need to make sure if your drive looks like this, you need the IDE kit. Just going to take these screws out. These have a little bit of Loctite on them. I don't know why, but they can be a little bit of a bear to take out sometimes. Now, we're going to plug the drive into our cloning setup here. This cloning kit is exclusive for acsbyroman.com. So let's get this all plugged together. Now there is a blank spot on this board here, and there's a blank corresponding matching blank spot here, so we just need to match them up. There we go. And we're going to plug this board into here. There's a corresponding notch in the middle there. Okay, when you make sure this plug goes in and plugs into our cloner. There we go. And now we can assemble this here. Now, if you get these kits from me in the mail, I would have already assembled most of this equipment. This one, as you see, already has this board here. So when you get it in the mail, it's already going to be assembled like this. All you have to do is flip it and plug it in here. Now, once you've plugged it into the outlet, you're going to have a switch on the back right here. You just flip the switch on, and you'll see the red lights light up. Then we're going to press and hold for a moment. And once that blue light starts flashing, that means we are cloning. So I'm going to put this off to the side. This is going to take about 40 minutes to finish. And while we're finishing the Mr12volt installation, that should be completed. While the hard drive is cloning, we're going to go over what we have with our Mr12volt kit. So if you purchased from acsbyroman.com, you had the opportunity to get a free install toolkit bundle. That includes a Torx 8 driver, some harness tape, standoffs, a zip tie, and a fancy pants Mr12volt high-speed car phone charger. This is for Android and for Apple. Now, this is, again, exclusive to acsbyroman.com. Please make sure that when you're ordering your Mr12volt kits from us, you tell us if you have satellite or no satellite, so we bundle for you the appropriate equipment. Now let's go over what comes from Mr12volt. We have our P3000 module, a little bit of documentation. We're going to have our fiber optic harness, our main harness, and our video transfer board. Inside this package will be some standoffs and some ribbon cables that we're going to use later. And the board itself has this insulation that you just take off to make things a lot easier for installation. Please do make sure to take a look to make sure all these tabs are in good shape and that nothing is damaged. And here we have our complete harness. It's just tied together. Ideally, there's one connector here. I'm going to mention it several times. This black connector with two white wires. Please don't disconnect this connector. We tape it up later to make sure it doesn't disconnect, but this is a huge issue. A lot of people have issues why their Mr12volt does not work properly after installation, and it's this plug. And then we have the fiber optic harness. There's two ways you can set up this harness. I will mention it later in the video. So the first thing we're going to do is set up our main harness. We're going to take off all our twisty ties. Now this vehicle is not going to have aftermarket camera installation, so I'm just going to tape up a lot of this harness. I do this for cars that have cameras as well. We just select out the cameras that need to be used and we leave them out. The only part of this harness I'm not going to tape up is the USB, so we leave that to the side, and we're going to tape up this stuff together down past the RCAs. Here is that plug. Again, make sure not to leave this unplugged. It will cause you grief and phone calls to me. So usually I would take this tape, like I would say to you guys, and just you're going to wrap the harness down to here. I'm just going to use my roll of tape. Now again, this will keep a lot of these loose wires from rattling around, and it will protect your RCAs later in case you do want to add cameras. Okay, now we're ready to get into our installation into the PCM. Let's talk about what's needed to open up this case. You have 6 screws really, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 1 for the satellite. Now, if your car does not have satellite, you're just going to have a cover panel, still remove this screw. When you're reassembling, do remember that the 2 screws on top of here are a little bit shorter than the rest. If you're watching this video and you have a Cayenne, you'll probably have a little plastic cover here. You just have to like slide it off and you'll have access to the screws. Next, we have to depress 2 tabs. One is right here. I'm going to press them in. And then another one on the other side. I'm just going to press it in, and then we're going to take off this tape here. Next, we're going to work our case. We're going to work our case back. I put my hands here and I wiggle it back. Sometimes it's a little bit more challenging to get off. Sometimes it's really easy. This one is not so bad. And we're inside. This is how I work on the PCMs. I do not disconnect the optical drive. There really is no reason. Now, if you're seeing the Cirrus board, that means you have Cirrus satellite. Again, you've got to take off that 1 screw here that I totally forgot to take off. Haha. So if you see the satellite board in here, please do not remove the satellite board. It does not need to be removed for this installation. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit, and we're going to go over what's to be done inside. Now that our case is open, we can proceed with prepping for the installation of the daughter board, the video transfer board, into the case. So we're going to start with removing the 2 ribbons. We just wiggle the connector side to side and up. It should wiggle like this and then go back into the open position. be gentle. If these connectors come off, it's they're not replaceable. It's a bad situation. So I just run them through the case like this. Okay, so they're going to be up and open, like so. Up and back is the open position. Next, I'm going to do the 3 mounting points for the board. You don't have to use 4. This one is kind of inconvenient because this thing's in the way, so we just use 1, 2, 3. Now, if you don't have satellite, your 3 mounting points will not have any threads in them. You can use one of your case screws or one of the included screws to run that screw down with your regular driver or my included driver and create threads into there. And then you can put the short standoffs, and that will be the mounts for your blue board. With the satellite board, we're just going to take these 3 out. Now we're going to install our longer standoffs. Some people do worry that the board will not fit and the case will not close. I can assure you everything fits perfectly fine. I'm using a little driver for this. It's a 5.0. You can use your hands or you can use a pair of pliers, whatever is convenient for you. And we're going to put the last one on the back. This is for our pass-through harness. Okay. Next, we're going to install 2 ribbons to connect the PCM to the daughter board. Now, I've included 4 ribbons in case you guys do mess up 2 of the ribbons. You have 2 spares, or if you need spares to reach your front, the screen. Some people, they're uninstalling a kit from another brand and they had removed the factory ribbon cables. These ribbon cables will reach the Mr12volt daughter board, but it's very, very tight, but they will reach. These will not be good as replacements for a stock PCM for the screen ribbons if you don't have Mr12volt. So 2 sets of ribbons, you only need 1. And you want to make sure that the blue here is facing that way, towards the back of the case. I feel it drop in, and then I secure the retainer. Check to make sure it's straight, okay. Okay, those look pretty good to me. Next, we're going to install our daughter board. We're going to reuse the screws that we took out. Now we're going to pop these open. And we can install our ribbons. These bottom two, the blue part of the ribbon is going to be facing this way, and for the top two, the blue part of the ribbon is facing this way. Okay. Okay, once these are connected, I like to roll these front two ribbons underneath the board. Start with the back one and then the front one, like that. Now, everything is pretty much ready to go. We're going to take our harness that we prepped earlier with the tape, and we're going to run our one wire through the case. This is the wire we're talking about. We're going to make sure that our two white wires are facing that way. We're just going to plug it in. This plug oftentimes wiggles out. This is like that black plug I was talking about earlier. This is probably the second biggest issue for why the Mr12volt does not load properly. So got to make sure that that's right. I'm going to take a zip tie here and feed it through to make sure that this thing does stay attached properly. Snip the extra off, and then we're going to take a tie here just going to route this properly here, and we're going to put the screw back for this as well, this retainer. Next, we want to straighten out these two tabs. And we're ready to put the case on. Now make sure that you line up the case properly here. And I don't push it down, I go forward a little bit, and then I push it down to cover those ribbons. I want to make sure that we're in on these tabs on the sides. And then you'll hear nice clicks. That tells you you're in good shape. I give it a nice press down because we have to make sure that the three retainers here, 1, 2, 3, are popping into their slots as well. There we go. Okay, and then we can close up the case with the two small screws on top. And then the three on the back. Now the kit will come with a bunch of extra screws. It's really only if you lose them. Lose a couple, you don't have to use them. Okay, the Mr12volt side of the installation is done. Our hard drive has completed its cloning, so we're just going to put that in next. Back to hard drive cloning. You'll see that the cloner has completed because all the blue lights are solid. At this point, we're just going to switch off our cloner, and now we can remove the drives. This one will just go back to the customer, and we're going to remove the pieces, and this is what's going to get put into the PCM. Again, we're going to use these little screws here. And we're going to plug this in again. Now, if you still have maybe a little jumper, a black jumper here, you can just unplug it and discard it. Again, mind the empty spot on the plug and the empty spot here on the drive to make sure that we're plugging in exactly the right spot. Okay, and just slide it in, press down, okay, that's complete. The last part I'd like to talk about is the fiber optic harness. So there's two variations that you can do this harness. If you have Bose or Burmaster, we're going to leave it in our 3-direction, 3-plug configuration. If you have base radio with no Bose or Burmaster, you will need to remove this female plug. To do this, you simply press here on the blue to pop out this connector, this little retainer, and you pry up on the tabs here to remove the short wire here from this plug. And then you will attach the one wire back into this plug so that it's just a straight through harness. I actually have a video on my YouTube channel, ACS by Roman, so you can see there exactly how I modify the harness into that configuration. Now, as this car does have Bose, I believe, we're just going to make some light setup here to make this work. So we're going to pop the retainer here. There's a little tiny tab right there. We're just going to pull it back, and the plug's going to come off, and we're going to keep this plug here. We're going to need that later. And this end is going to go into the plug that goes into the PCM, into the first position right here. And now we're ready to go to the car. Back in the car, we're going to prep our installation. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to snip these pieces of tape so that our harness is looser. It'll be easier to do wire management later. Be careful not to cut the actual harness, and just cut the tape. All right. And I'm going to walk this harness back a little bit. You don't even have to cut it, you can just pull it back. That way these three are more accessible. The last part, we're going to pull out the fiber optic from here. And again, there's the same little tab. We just depress it and this comes out. This one piece of the fiber optic harness will connect to our fiber optic harness into this plug that we pulled out before. So we're just going to put this cover on it. And we're going to connect it into the female here. Like that. So now we're going to test fit our Mr12volt and make sure that we did the ribbons and everything properly, and continue on with the installation. So we're going to plug in our Mr12volt harness into the factory PCM harness. And we're going to plug this harness into the PCM. And I test this before I do any of the other plugs, just to make sure I get the screen going. And you want to make sure that quad lock is seated nice and flush in there. Now we're going to connect the Mr12volt pieces. This goes in here. This goes in here. And the large harness from Mr12volt goes in here. Okay. And now let's see if we get power. There we go. The Porsche crest lights up and we are in the middle. We hear static. That I understand we don't have the antennas plugged in right now, but the static means that we've done our fiber optic properly. So at this point, we just need to do wire management and we're done. So the way I do my wire management is I separate out these cables this way, the fiber optic harness separately. It's unplugged right at this moment. And I separate these two yellow and black on the right and the three yellow, black, and blue on the left. And now I will run the harnesses all through. I'm going to connect this here and run this down. Okay, we now have this connected, We're gonna put the car back into park and move the shifter. There we go. And we're gonna assemble the dash, bring the radio back up, plug these cables on the right in. And then we're going to plug these in on the left. Okay, and then we'll just tug on these to make sure we get all the slack down at the bottom. Now the big quad lock I put off a little bit to the right to try to get as much room as possible. You can kind of tuck it back there on the right. And then we just slide it in. And that's it. Now we're going to test our module one more time to make sure nothing came loose while we were sliding it in. Beautiful, our logo comes right up. That means we're good. We can put our shifter back. And now we can screw the radio back on. Don't forget these little retainers. Okay. Now I will show you how to reassemble the left side. So now we just need to hide our P3000 module. What we're going to do is we're going to pull this carpet back here, and we're going to run the wiring, and we're going to tuck the module all the way up there because there's plenty of room. There's like a big pocket up in that space. The only thing that we're not going to tuck up there is this USB. Okay, so it looks like that. Now the last piece to this puzzle is to install this panel. You have one guide here, here, and these guys here. Make sure you get under this one. It's a little bit of a pain in the butt. And make sure this guy here, it goes underneath here because that's your screw hole. Okay. Here we go. Very nice. We just put a screw in here. Now we're almost done with the installation. This area has been tucked in. I like to check one more time that nothing got pinched. We power on, the crest is there. Good, audio works, beautiful. So next we just throw in these last two panels and we're just gonna assemble it like this. Make sure you don't break this tab. It slides right into a groove here. On this car, the one on the right side has already been damaged. So we start up and then in and then in. That's the position. And that's nice, no bulges. Got the left side in, now we got the right. Okay, we checked that nothing's sticking out anywhere. It feels good. All right, so we're here with our new Mr12volt install. So we're gonna press the source button and we're gonna tab over to TV. That's where Mr12volt is. And you have an iPhone or an Android?
iPhone.
iPhone, so we're gonna go to CarPlay. And on the phone, if you could just turn on Wi-Fi and then go to your Bluetooth. Good. You don't have to select anything. Just go to and then just go to Bluetooth. And when you go to Bluetooth, all the way at the bottom, you're going to see Mr12volt. There you go. And allow it to pair with everything. And there you go. Everything should work. You can swipe through the menus, though you're going to have to get used to the touch. It's a little bit more pressure than you might be used to. Ideally, you can actually organize your icons to the most used icons on the first page. You can do that on your phone. For maps, everything will work just like any other CarPlay that you've used on any other device. You do have some additional settings you can get to by pressing the back button here, either going to exit or pressing the back button again, holding the back button. In this menu, you can dial to the mirroring. If you use the M-Link app, you can do screen mirroring. Bluetooth we won't really go in. Video and music. There's two of these, video and music. There's a USB cable that I tucked in underneath by your gas pedal. You can put music or videos on a USB stick and connect it there, and it'll play through here. Not super commonly used. Then we're going to go into settings. Here you have volume settings. This would be your gains, how strong your mic, voice, navi, media, and call volume is, so that when you're in CarPlay or whatever else, you can set it to your preference. Car settings, this is where you'd find any camera settings. If you have OE camera, do you have OE camera? No. So we're just gonna not touch it, we're gonna leave it as is. If you do have OE camera, you can change some settings here. Or if you have aftermarket camera, you can select aftermarket camera and set it to most likely parking key, and that will, or reverse state, and that will get your rear camera working. Display, you can change contrast, stuff like that. For sound, you have an equalizer here. You can adjust it. If you adjust anything too far out, more than your amp can handle, it will cause the system to reboot. Just come back in, set it to flat, that level everything, and just use milder changes. Language, if you want to speak something else. Under system, you have factory reset, or in factory mode here, you have echo cancellation. It was a great feature. I don't think you really need it anymore. You're using your factory mic now. Touch calibration, if you feel the touch is off. And skins, you can select different skins of how you want the Mr12volt to look. So that's it for this installation. Thank you, everyone.